Hello, hello, my friends. It is Hondo, and welcome back to the Knights of the Nerd Republic. You know what to do, and stay profitable.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Hello there, and welcome back to Knights of the Nerd Republic, the show where your favorite nerds talk all things about the galaxy far, far away. We are here with our penultimate review of the Acolyte, Episode 7, Choice. I love this episode. I am just so blown away by this show and just the places it's been going, that has been very cerebral and begging a fandom that refuses to learn how to fucking read to engage critically with the text. And I'm having a good time because I think I'm literate. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe our panelists will prove otherwise. So I am not alone. We are joined by one Kason Breon.
Good evening, everyone. Ready to talk some Acolyte? Ready to hang out with our special guest this evening?
Yes, absolutely.
Today, whenever you watch this.
Yeah, whatever. Time's not fucking real. But yes, we do have a special guest, as you saw in the thumbnail. Dear friend of the show, one Scotty Holiday.
Hello, it's me, your favorite fan.
Yeehaw.
Aw. To ask your very funny question you put in the private chat, this is just so funny to me. They asked, who the fuck does this intro? That would be one Joel Basenback, day one TNAP, producer extraordinaire. Anytime I joke about how this show operates on like 3 or 4 computer programs being duct taped on top of each other, it's because Joel was like, I don't know how to do this shit, so I'm kind of freeballing it. And now there's a program on my computer that I don't use anymore that I can't delete for some reason. But no, Joel recorded all our intros and everything, and he is a remarkably busy person who is on the show maybe once a year. He is technically only like actively on the show once a year, but you hear his voice in every single episode, as you should, because this show would not exist were it not for Joel Basenback. But yeah, I'm very excited to jump into the episode. Before we do that, folks, let's say you're on a mission on some backworld or backwater outer rim planet, and you get into a little dust up with the Coven of Witches. Everything goes to hell. You had a bad day. You know what'll lift your spirits?
What?
Sunday's Bloody Mary. You guys know the drill by now. Sunday's Bloody Mary hosts the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the galaxy. Kason thought that was funny.
I do love a Bloody Mary, so sounds good to me.
3-time award-winning spicy Caesar Miss Kason, shut the fuck up, you're killing me. They're also award-winning pickled dilly beans, okra, and asparagus. If you want to get your freak on and garnish that bad boy, this former bartender will always attest that there are few things on this planet better than a from-scratch Bloody Mary, and the only Bloody Mary mix that can rival a from-scratch Bloody Mary is Sunday's Bloody Mary mix. It is the GOAT. It is the only Bloody Mary mix I will ever touch. It is the only one that can surpass a from-scratch Bloody. So use the link in the description down below and use the code TNAP at checkout to get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. And while I am doing the plugs, I would also like to remind everybody that we have our merch store. I'm trying to do a better job at plugging this at the beginning of the show. I obviously do the movie trivia schmodown, tpublic.com video at the end of every episode. But just because I am particularly proud of this design that I cooked up in 2 hours and giggled the entire time over, Guys, go get the vintage Cookie Cop t-shirt. Come on, look at it. It's fucking
I still gotta
cursed.
get mine.
It's fucking cursed. Go get one. Get the shirt, get the hoodie, get the crew neck.
Get the pillow.
Get the pillow. Get the pillow.
Oh, like a sexy anime pillow, but Cookie Cop.
If TeePublic offered body pillows, I would
Cookie
put
Cop body pillow would be so funny.
I'm gonna do everybody a favor because I know what I'm about to say is gonna get clipped. So I'm just gonna full screen myself real quick. If I had the ability to mass produce a Cookie Cop body pillow, I would pay top dollar for a better graphic design person than I to put the biggest fucking tits on Cookie Cop. Like an absurd amount of money. Like I'm not going to Star Wars Celebration now amount of money to put just massive yitties on Cookie Cop.
Give him some cookies.
Give him some cookies. Give him the cookies.
I was gonna suggest a body pillow, but make it like a cat dog type deal where it's Cookie Cop on one end and Scotty on the other. Scotty Jarod. Or you.
Yeah. Two that are one. The power of two. Twin flame. Anyway.
I'm so glad that intro will be on the internet forever.
Yeah,
like that the intro to that Sundays ad read.
I mean,
that was so funny.
You could have I love the way that you did it. You know, if we ever get more bloody Torben, you can tie it in there. Like there's blood in this episode and everything. So many options.
Right.
I love it.
How many ops you got? I mean, it's really too many options, as a wise man once said. Scotty, how are you feeling about this episode and the Acolyte as a whole so far? I say so far, we're almost at the end.
I know, unfortunately. Well, if anybody's watched any of my reviews, I'll get my complaints out of the way first. This show is too short, runtime wise, and there's not enough episodes because I want more. However, in my ranking of Star Wars on Disney Plus, Andor's number 1. I feel like that's a given for anybody, but Acolyte's number 2. Like, despite the gripes I have with not getting enough of it, like, I'm really, really enjoying the show. It's giving me the fantasy, intrigue, world building, all that stuff that I really like. Lightsabers, Jedi, like all the good stuff. And I really enjoyed episode 7. I didn't love episode 6. It's kind of weird. The vibe was a little odd to me, just different than everything else that we had gotten. So getting back to this episode, I was really into it. And I enjoyed it a lot. Plus, we finally know what happened on Brendok. Finally.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. The Brendok Commission has come back with, the Brendok Commission has come back with some grim detail. I am excited to talk about it. I am very excited to talk about it because there's a lot of nuance here that a lot of the internet is just choosing to pretend isn't there, as it typically does.
Yeah.
Kason, we haven't gotten to hear your voice for the Acolyte coverage as much as we normally do. How you feeling about, again, this episode and since we heard from you last?
Feeling pretty good. I'm really digging the show. My only gripes are probably pretty similar to yours, Scotty. I would like more of the show. I would like more of it at a time. I'd also just like it to be longer in total. It's like I feel like we still have a lot to get through to only have one episode left.
Yeah.
Unless they like make the last episode have like a 50-minute runtime, which I mean, they might.
I'm not getting my hopes up.
Yeah, I'm not getting my hopes up, but like,
fingers crossed.
I hope that we get a satisfying ending and like we get there's already like a season 2 in the works type deal.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, if it doesn't all resolve itself.
Yeah.
But if it all resolves, then like cool.
I mean, supposedly it's going to, because Leslie Headland has said in interviews that it's a self-contained story and that there's room to expand, but like everything will be wrapped up in the first season. So we'll see how true that is.
Yeah, I mean, hey, like any good like mystery thriller, you know, you leave people with like a little crumb of like, what else is there? You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's there. I agree with you guys on a lot of that stuff. I have really, really been loving this show. It is,
Mhm.
it is hitting a lot of those things that I love from Star Wars. I've made the joke 1,000 times, and part of it is the Jarod is a conspiracy nut bit, but part of it is also like very sincere, and like my taste when it comes to media is that you took a murder mystery conspiracy thriller, uh, and you made sure that all the main characters were Jedi and or Force users.
Mhm.
Um, you had me at hello.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard for that pitch to not immediately wrap me in. So I am in love with a lot of what's going on in this show. I agree with for the most part. I think coming towards the end here, I think my only real gripe truly is that an issue that is not unique to the Acolyte.
Yeah.
It is a problem that has permeated the streaming ecosystem of it's either a massive drop and a binge, or it's 8 weeks and that's all you get with middling runtimes. um I know they said in interviews that had they had their druthers, day and night would have been one episode, that
Yeah.
we just would have got a Game of Thronesian length episode of trudging through the jungle and then having to face death incarnate in the forest. Which I look forward to being able to do the show as a binge
Yeah.
as
Same.
well. I
Yeah.
think that I think there's a lot of people who, and it is what it is. There are some shows that when you get to it after the fact, that there leaves room to be able to just blast through it and it'd be a satisfying watch because instant gratification, dopamine hit, whatever, whatever,
Mhm.
whatever. Um, but I do think things like day into night, like I don't think anybody who watches those episodes back to back are not going to come away with it feeling like day was spinning its wheels for 30 minutes, which is, I know, a criticism a lot of people had. And I
Yeah.
can't and I can't say in good faith necessarily that I think that's wrong, so much as I didn't mind the wheel spinning because the wheels were spinning in a way I enjoyed. There were conversations, there was character development happening along the way that I really that I particularly um, liked a lot. Plus, I got to enjoy 30 minutes of ignorant bliss where one of my favorite Star Wars characters showed up in the High Republic and then had the rude awakening that apparently every asshole on the internet pretended they ever gave a damn about Mundi for the rest of the week.
Oh god.
Um,
Here we go.
listen, I'm going to say it real quick and I'm going to get off of it. I'm the only fucking person on the internet who loved that motherfucker. And I got 30 minutes to just bask in the glory of seeing Mundi in live action in 2024. And then that bad built, dumb motherfucker ruined it for everybody. And by everybody, I mean me, because I'm the only person who likes Mundi.
Yeah.
At least that's what the internet has convinced me. But yeah, no, I think that really is like my only real, gripe. And going into this episode, the stakes were high, for the audience, that this is where we need to get a lot of payoff. A
Mhm.
lot of what this whole show is about rides on this episode, rides on what happens, how it happens, people's motivations going in, knowing the truth. And what this show did so well was a very clever and almost meta understanding of what Star Wars fans do when they're consuming Star Wars. And that is overthink and
Yeah.
overcomplicate.
Mhm.
And especially because the show has done such a good job at critiquing the Jedi from a very good faith place. I think a lot of us went in, especially with the way that they've teed up a lot of these characters, like Indara and Soul in particular, where there was this, with Indara, she seems like a hard ass. She seems kind of, very institutionally inclined.
I
You know,
could
it,
not stand her at first. I was like, fuck that bitch.
Yeah, I mean, the way she is framed in episode 1 and then episode 3, like she
Mhm.
seems incredibly condescending. She seems incredibly, you know, cocooned within the institutional power of the Jedi Order.
Mhm.
That will become to this episode, it's none of that.
Yeah.
You know, she's one of the few adults in the room. Um, yeah, very very simply, and I get with the overcomplication. You know, I think we all went in again with this whole idea of like, oh, the Jedi will be the aggressors in a
Mhm.
in a very real, in an almost unambiguous way. The Jedi will push ideology, will push a sure-footed entitlement onto the witches, and it will lead to a fucking catastrophe.
Mhm.
And the way that the show refutes that idea, that, you know, again, we watch episode 3 from the perspective of the witches, and it's like, oh, like here come the Jedi knocking down the door of an independent force faith trying to do their own thing, and it's, oh, give us your children, give us your babies. When in reality they're like, isn't it weird that this planet got fucking annihilated during the Legacy Run disaster and it's teeming with life again?
Mhm.
We should go investigate that, right? The Jedi are there doing their jobs, like
Mhm.
sincerely, just researching it, and they happen upon these witches. You know, like Mother Anastasia, the stank she has in her voice, with that the all-knowing Jedi Order was ignorant of their surroundings.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, because this planet shouldn't even look like this to begin with. You know, that the Jedi were there for sincere reasons, that Indara is trying to rein in the myopic, well-meaning but self-centeredness of Soul, that she is trying to rein in the hot-headed instability of her apprentice. You know, that like she is trying her best to do the right thing. The oft maligned Jedi Council does the right thing in this episode, and it
Mhm.
is the wheels falling the fuck off and them being dealt a hand that they didn't want to play with in the first place, setting the stage for all kinds of chaos. So, Scotty, how are you feeling about how things shook out on Brendok? That we have 97% of the answers.
So I already kind of talked about it, but I owe Master Andara a large apology, because she came out of this one as a real one and like the only one with a level head who was really doing the right thing. And I know some people want to argue about like the ending and like creating the lie essentially, but I think that kind of played into what Mother Anastasia talked about the Jedi's noble intentions being their undoing. I don't think that that lie that she came up with was because she was like, "We've got to cover this up," but she was like, "In this moment, this is the best thing I can do for this child because she's lost everything." So I really liked her in this episode. I liked that the Jedi Council, like you mentioned, did the right thing because I was worried they were not going to. And in general, I just thought it was executed really well. I love the trope in media where it's like you get to see the same events that you saw earlier in a series, but either at a different camera angle or from the perspective of a different character. Kind of how we would like watch in on the scene of Soul was in like the reactor area and we saw Mother Coral in episode 3. We heard a sound. She went over and looked. There was nothing. And at the time, I was
Yeah,
like, what were they even trying to hint at? Now we know Soul was sneaking
Right.
around in there. And then just at different points during the episode we see more of that and I really loved that. um I think my only gripe, I guess you could say, was I did feel like the lightsaber fight at the end was a little clunky. Like in
okay.
some scenes it was great, in some scenes I was like, it looks like me trying to fight with a lightsaber, but it's also a Wookiee, so like how agile is a Wookiee gonna be? And when you really think of
Being
it,
piloted by somebody who is not,
exactly.
yeah,
Right.
and yeah, and I was on Bombad Cast this past week. I was riding
Mhm.
shotgun, guest hosting in place of Scotty Jarod, and you know we were talking a lot about that. And I'm not going to get into the weeds here, but go check out Bombad Cast um, for my little fight breakdown there. But no, I totally get that. I think that I'm going to go on a tirade. Kason, how are you feeling about how things panned out? I'm going to
I hit
not
a
shut the
trigger.
fuck up for a
I
minute.
hit a trigger.
It's very interesting seeing it from the other perspective. It makes a lot more sense with everything that happened too, because like you see that neither side had the full story, just like we didn't
Yeah.
obviously in the beginning. Um, and like obviously from Soul's perspective, like it looks like Mother Coral is like some alien who captured these kids and is holding
Scary
them
fabric
hostage.
lady.
Yeah, like I'm sure Soul's like, well, those obviously aren't actually hers. So why does she have them and why is she being mean to them? And it's like, okay, I get it. But then like he also breaks in and everything. And it's like, okay, well, because like he misses the part where like Mother NSA is like talking to the girls. And
Yeah.
as soon as he actually gets on that platform and looks is when she does the force push on them and knocks them both down. So it's like, oh, and now they're abusing them. And it's like, yeah, buddy, but like not really. But
No,
um
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
The thing that I find so fast is the tragedy of it all.
Mhm.
And again, the way that there is no malice from either party here. Well, allow me to rephrase that. It's complicated. Like this whole show, it's complicated.
Yeah.
Like Soul is, I think the best place to start with like unpacking the shit show that was the tragedy on Brendok
Mhm.
is understanding the the myopic stance Soul takes with his role as a Jedi Knight. And I think it's very fascinating because it is a self-righteousness that we typically only get in a very specific framing that we see in Revenge of the Sith, that we see in the Clone Wars, of this whole idea that it's normally framed as that like Jedi are above attachments thing, right? It is
Mhm.
Luminara Unduli telling Trace and Rafa, "Hey, she's your family's part of the Force now. It's okay." You
Yeah.
know, more not for those who pass on into the Force. Rejoice for them. With Yoda and Revenge of the Sith, that normally this is framed as the Jedi are too detached. The Jedi don't care enough about life because they have this very hippy dippy we're all the Force anyway kind of thing. That I
Mhm.
think oftentimes like that there's a valid critique in there that gets aggressively accidentally boiled down into like the Jedi are a death cult. Um, and maybe not in as many words, but I think there's a lot of like that's what it basically boils down to. And we're seeing a different version of that here that I really find fascinating because the center of it is this idea that we as the Jedi have an obligation and a duty to pass on what we have learned onto the next generation, and we have that duty because the Jedi philosophy is like self evident as being correct and being infallible. And we see the way that mentality is kind of the crux of the Jedi Order's downfall, is that it is this assumption that their philosophy is self-evident and that is what leads to the resting on their laurels. I get made fun of for it all the time. It is why I have so much beef with Yoda, is that there is very much that sense of we have proven ourselves so many times ideologically that we do not feel the need to actively evolve as an institution. There are
Mhm.
individuals who need to grow, but not the institution itself, that needs to understand that there are things that we aren't getting right. And this insistence that it is the individual. And that is where my main gripe with Yoda falls, that he's so focused on individuals that he doesn't realize the way that this outlook on the Jedi philosophy has grown so many claws into the order at large. So with Soul having this, well, it's my duty to take an apprentice, and I have a duty to protect these children. And if they're not being protected by anybody, then what are the Jedi going to do? And
Mhm.
it is this very myopic, like, I have a duty to train this child because I am clearly the only person who can adequately. That is so shocking. Like, everybody came away from these first few episodes comparing Soul to Qui-Gon Jinn
Mhm.
so heavily, so much, so emphatically. And when Soul is kind of embodying that, I don't want to say might makes right, but again, like the self-evident ness of the Jedi that we as fans have critiqued Coyote-Mundi and Mace Windu for years.
I think you could also say there's a bit of a possessiveness in there too that he has specifically in this episode when it comes to Osha.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's definitely there. That's definitely there. And he is so insistent on centering himself in this issue that not only is he missing the forest for the trees, he is missing out on the obvious way that he's missing out of the obvious ways that he is right about certain aspects of what's going on here. That he is missing that the mothers are perfectly willing to let one of their own go, or at least Anastasia, and it's her vote that matters.
Mm-hmm.
That she is perfectly prepared to do what Osha would like to see done. That, as Indar is trying to explain to him, we are not the only valid Force philosophy. We think we're right. Duh. Because of course we think we ourselves are right. But, but look at those markings. Like, vestigial tattoos are fucking normal in this galaxy. Like, you're buddies with Vernestra fucking Rowe.
Yeah.
She had that shit since before she was 14.
She's got a head tattoo.
Yeah. Exactly.
So like Endara has a marking on her eye.
Yeah, Indara has a marking, he's like, these markings. Like, yeah, Mother Coral's a Zabrak, but like, it's customary within the Jedi to, yes, like, you are your own individual and like you've grown beyond like where you come from, but like those cultural things are still very important. It's why every single Zabrak Jedi we see still have the face tattoos. Eth Koth has them. Aegon Kolar has them. It's still integral to the culture, and you get to embody that. What Soul sees is something that does not directly line up with Jedi ideology, mixed with what he sees as the opportunity to like do right by the Order by continuing the teachings of the next generation and proving that there's a vergence here, because the vergence, again, in and of itself is its own source of like nobility and purpose. And it's that pursuit that, again, is making him miss the forest for the trees, which I think is deeply fucking fascinating, and makes him very flawed. And it is that myopic nature that pushes a lot of these issues. I think that, again, had Soul not taken the liberty of breaking into their fortress, that there could have been a moment where he could have just found a way to be like, hey, hi, we're here on like we're looking at moss.
I found some rocks over here.
We didn't know there were fucking people here. What are you guys up to?
Yeah.
Because it's crazy
100%.
that you're here. It's crazy that you're here. It's crazy there's grass here. It's even crazier that you're here. But again, it is that like, oh, there has to be something wrong. And I, the noble Jedi Knight, can the only person who can save it, like it is.
You know what it reminds me of?
What?
White savior complex, except it's like Jedi savior complex. They're seeing this group different than them. Even in Dara, like I said, she still has a lot of redeemable moments, but she's like, oh, they're so strange and so insular and like, and they're different than us. But like Soul wants to go on. He's like, but I have to save the children. It's this weird savior complex I didn't even think about until you're kind of describing the way he's going about this mission.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is that it is that savior complex that only the Jedi can make the situation right. That does, in many ways, lead to disaster. And the thing that I find fascinating, that again, and a lot of it is real world coloring how we engage with fiction in a very valid way, that we went into this and we see the institutional might of the Jedi Order during the High Republic era kind of getting a little, kind of overstepping their bounds with this independent group of, space witch lesbians, kind of doing their own thing in the Outer Rim, that we as the viewer who have opinions about institutional power and have, again, do I like or agree with Jedi equal cops, therefore a jab? No, I think that's fucking preposterous and stupid. But do I see the coding here? Sure. What I love is that we see that the witches, who so many people, myself included, were prepared to go, maybe they were aggressed upon, react several times wildly disproportionately. And again, as much as I want to be like, Mother Anastasia was one of the few people who were being the adult in the room, as much as I want to give her those flowers, that comes with an asterisk. Because while all we see in episode 3 in Destiny is Torben Black Eyes, it seems like that was like a very brief, hey, step off or I'll fucking melt your Padawan's brain. Was actually, for the last 5 minutes or so, he has been catatonic just standing up. That she instantly went to invade the mind and use the power of the dark side to dominate the mind of the weakest person in the room and take his choices away. And that Mother Anastasia is the first person to make decisions on behalf of another without their permission or consent. And I think, and again, it adds a lot of wrinkles to this whole equation. That is her first response. And that's to say nothing of how violent Mother Coral gets at the drop of a hat.
Well, we all saw that coming.
Yeah. But when the pendulum swings back a little bit. And again, it's nuanced. There is no hero or villain in the room. There are obvious people who fuck up the most, are like fuck up MVPs are, Soul, Torben, and Coral, by a country fucking mile are those three who are the most out of control in this situation. But okay, you react very aggressively. Mother Coral is quick to violence. She is quick to sick May on her own sister. She is quick to have everybody knocking bows and, has her glaive ready to fuck somebody up. Take another step and it'll be your last. Like she's all right there. And then I remember you were chased away. You were exiled. What happened to you guys that made you so ready to strike back like this? It is the destructiveness of oppression, that when you put a group of people in a pressure cooker and fuck with them endlessly, they're going to lash out back at you, which is going to result in a tragedy, which is going to amount in turning up the pressure in the pressure cooker, which is going to piss them off more. And the cycle just keeps going and going and going and going and going into annihilation. We see a similar issue here, where it's like, yeah, you're reacting, you're coming out fucking swinging, but you probably come by it honestly. But then again, I have to ask the question, what did you do to get exiled?
Right.
There's so much to it. It goes so deep.
Because if you got exiled because they found out you were doing weird force shit to try to create life, that you were literally playing God, and another force sect was like, we're not down with that. This is fucking weird and an abomination. I can't say I would disagree that it's kind of weird ethics to just create life willy-nilly, it's complicated and I love it. And the amount of people who just want this whole situation to be like, Soul is into human trafficking, actual takes I've read on twitter.com this week.
You mean X.com?
No, I don't. You know, yeah, those are X takes. You're right. Those are fucking X takes. X.com as a slur. But you know, like it is so much more complicated than that. And again, the thing that I think so many people are willingly overlooking is how clearly Soul, his heart is in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
It is what makes the savior complex. It is what makes a messiah trope so tragic more often than not, is that you do believe what you're saying. You don't want to harm the people involved. You just happen to be wrong.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even wrong, but like you just happen to be missing crucial details. You know, like again, the thing that I had been predicting is that Soul was probably the person who killed Mother Anastasia. The context of that is so complicated.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, like you should be slower to take the lightsaber off your hip. But by the same token, the powerful Force Witch who you watch dominate a Padawan's mind turns into a smoke monster with a gaping maw, and you're watching a child Thanos snap out of existence.
Who you think is the one that you're supposed to be taking because you're so focused on
Yeah.
just saving the child.
I can't say it was a bad shoot.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that, but that's just because I'm a Mother Anastasia stan.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I get. Oh, for sure, I get that. You know, but it's like I cannot. Like I cannot tell you with a straight face that again, if I'm standing there, if I'm watching a child like turn into like shadow and mist, while like again, like you get huge smoke monster with the scary fucking Buffy vampire face, you know, with like the oblong mouth and like it's like I can't tell you that if I saw that and it looks like you're disintegrating this child and about to turn into a monster, that I have exactly 3 seconds to stop you from hurting anybody else. To only find out that you're probably just going to teleport him out of there. And then again, it comes back to the arrogance of the Jedi that, you know, witches equals Night Sisters, right? That's all the same thing.
Right. Even Torben mentions it. He name drops Night Sisters in the episode.
Yeah, you think of Night Sisters so quickly. Did it ever occur to you that these fucking witches can teleport with the Force? Was that a thing you knew they could do? You know, like again,
if they fly now type shit.
Exactly. And I'm like, and part of me is like, Soul, if you knew that like the weird like Force magics allowed for teleportation, an exotic and crazy power that is not normally something you can attain through like the traditional paths of the Force, would you have assumed she was about to die? Would you have leapt to take her life if in your mind you could have taken that into account? But you did, because the Force begins and ends with the Jedi. You know, like that's another fuck up on his part, you know, but then again, not even necessarily a fuck up, but like you made a decision with the information you had in front of you. But what outside forces set the table for you to have what information you had to begin with? That is a harder question to answer than, I guess, the Jedi were evil this whole time and deserved what happened to them.
Well, I think that people forget that you can not be bad, but you can be good, but you can still be flawed.
Yeah.
And that's literally what we saw in this episode, not only with the Jedi, but with the Coven as well. And that's okay. Nobody's perfect. We keep talking about the savior complex, and like those people are not perfect either. Some of them may think that they are.
Yeah.
But everybody's flawed. And I definitely think there's sometimes, and it's not all Jedi, but certain Jedi that we've seen are more active than reactive. And I think this is definitely one of those moments where Soul was acting instead of kind of waiting to see what happens and react to what happened. But like you said, he was so laser focused. He sees like the child that he's trying to save is going away into mist with scary witch lady. So
Master Soul, I don't feel so good.
Yeah.
Literally.
So my question with that is, so like he goes for his lightsaber, right?
Mhm.
The lightsaber is a physical weapon.
Oh gosh.
So like if you still think that you're going to be able to affect her physical body, why not just test that with a good old force push instead of immediately going
Souls. Give you guys a little sneak peek into the Versus series real quick. I don't think I'm going to be using Soul this season in the Versus series. I do plan on using him, and in the little like probably next season, and in the little bits and notes I have been taking, just kind of like wrapping my brain around how I'd analyze them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really interesting that for somebody as cerebral and in tune with the Force as Soul is, at least 16 years later, that the way he uses the Force is in a very like specifically instinctive way, and almost in a like, oh shit, I need to do this. And I think it is born of that decision, Kason. I think on a psychological level, Soul has gotten really good. And granted, obviously OSHA slips off the cliff on
from the Clone Wars.
yeah. Shit. I can't I can hear Eli giggling in the fucking distance. I almost called it Caladan, but that's the fucking Atreides homeworld from Dune. It's something similar to that. But like, yeah, so obviously you're gonna reach out with the Force and do that. But like Soul flipped May over and caught her with the Force as well, which I think is also a very beautiful illusion here. Is that there is a moment where he has the opportunity to like stop her fall, and instinctively he does it right this time. That I think is a really beautiful parallel, a retroactive parallel that we see here.
Good call.
But again, like he could have done that. We see him not be very intuitive with the way he uses the Force. When I was on Bombad, we were talking about the decision Soul makes as to which twin he saves. And again, it is him being so caught up in the moment that he's not thinking straight, that instead of trying to grab the children with the Force, he tries to catch the bridge.
Yeah.
That had you just gone, okay, Osha and May, and just catch them, and then you can levitate them over to you. Instead, he goes into that moment having, he's clearly fatigued from getting his shit rocked by Coral, piloting Kelnaka's body, has had to tap into his again, kind of like, for lack of a better term, like quick draw Force reservoir to empower himself physically to take on a Wookiee unfucking armed.
He didn't have time for his Force meter to reload.
Yeah, truly. Like I know, like a lot of people like bitch about the gamification of the Force, and I do agree that and I say this as somebody who will fight for Force Unleashed to the day I fucking die.
Oh God.
And the way that I think fans who are willing to engage critically with media have let people who aren't hijack that story. But like, I do think that, again, I've always subscribed to the idea that the Force is kind of like a muscle. When you're not actively training with it, when you're not actively tapping into it, that muscle will begin to atrophy. It's why we see Obi-Wan, who was able to let out a Force push that stalemated with the fucking Chosen One, who then later in that same show is able to pick Vader up off of his feet and throw him across the room. A Force feat we have never seen from anybody else struggle to stop Leia from falling. Because he's out of practice. Yeah. And in that same way, if you're at the gym and you are just personal record, you got fucking jelly arms now, bro. Good luck picking up the thing that you could pick up like it's no issue at the beginning of your workout. You know, so I think there's a similar issue there. Like we joke about force meter, but I do think that's part of it. Is that so you're now struggling against the, you know, lowercase f physics force of these bridges trying to cave in on itself, fighting to hold it up, and now you realize I could have just grabbed the fucking kids. And now you have to refocus your energy under duress, under the duress of the situation, under the incredible physical exertion, you know, to then refocus on grabbing the kids. It's not as easily done. So then he has to make a choice. Do I save the child who clearly wants to go, the child who, from his perspective, from what he could sense in the force, was under attack, and he wasn't entirely wrong, and save her from this situation? Or do I let the one who wants to leave die to save the one who hates me, hates my culture, hates everything I stand for, who watched me murder her mother,
That part.
who will watch me let her sister die now so that I can take her from the place she doesn't want to leave? Like, the choice is obvious. It's heartbreaking. It is tragic. It is gut-wrenching, and it is not fair for anybody to ever have to make a decision like that. But it's also kind of clear because he made the wrong choice as to how to try to save them.
Yeah.
Because he keeps missing the forest through the trees. He is for, you know, again, it is the, again, I love that almost every single mistake and every single like misfortune Soul has faced in this show has been a direct result of him not heeding his own advice. Do not trust your eyes. They can deceive you. And at every step of the way, he has been hoodwinked by Kymir. He has been fooled by Osha masquerading as masquerading as Osha. You know, that we keep seeing these instances where he, you know, I saw her die. She's fucking alive and kicking, bud. You know, we
saw her
see,
fall, not die.
Yeah, I saw her fall. You know, we see him again, like make a very snap. Oh, well, the bridge is falling. I'll stop the bridge.
Like I said, it's that action and not reaction.
Yeah.
And then he stays there. I mean, if you want to get real technical, isn't he technically blue lightsaber? Aren't they guardians? Aren't they the ones that are the fighters anyway?
So
in whatever Legends, EU, current canon, whatever it is.
If I may have a sidebar rant.
Oh, I did it again. Damn it.
The lightsaber color equals this thing is one of those like fandom games of telephone that have like snowballed into something that it just never was. Like it's one of those like Jedi Guardians tended to have blue lightsabers. It wasn't like, because you got to remember, like when you bond with the kyber crystal, that's when it gets its color. And then you don't get like sorted into Guardian, Consular, Sentinel. From there, you know, like, you know, Qui-Gon Jinn was, you know, again, it's they're terms that like we don't even see them really used in canon. But like in terms of like those Legends distinctions, like Qui-Gon Jinn was a fucking Jedi Guardian. Green lightsaber, you know, like, and then you had Jocasta Nu. That's a consular if I've ever seen one in my life.
Maybe back in her heyday she was a guardian, but
yeah, got over had like a career pivot. You know, like I think symbolically, like outside of the text, the colors have meaning. Like that evoke themes that, you know, that like, again, like everything that we associate with color on like a metatextual way, in the same way that like bad guys have red because red is scary, because red is anger, red is passion. And that's why bad guys have red. is like it's a very like that, like it works as a top down as the viewer thing. I have never been somebody who was super into in universe the colors mean anything other than red happens when you fuck the crystal up. Like that is something I love. That is one thing that I think Legends and Canon like broke even on, is like how lightsaber crystals work. I always like, because in Legends the crystal already had a color when you found it, but it was the same basic principle of the crystal chose you through the Force, and that the red lightsaber crystals were synthetic, and that it was a very beautiful kind of distillation of Sith ideology of we will dominate nature to create what we want. And when when the red crystals were created, they burned hotter and like were slightly more powerful than like an organic lightsaber crystal, or natural lightsaber crystal, I guess I should say. But they handled more clunky, which again is like a perfect distillation of, it's more effective in combat, but you're going to have to make up for the fact that it's unwieldy, where it's here, these occur in nature. So it doesn't inherently come with the ability to like be a weapon. But no, I do think, like, to your point though, like Soul is very much like the way he is presented here in this episode does seem like somebody who was that quintessential Jedi Knight here to save the day. Like, I would not be surprised if Soul is like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to this planet that was affected by the great hyperspace disaster, because he read about it. He was like, oh fuck yeah, Stellan Geos, Elzar man, Porter Engel, so again, like Soul is so fully, unequivocally, unquestionably bought in to the Jedi ideology and to the myth of the Jedi, that I do think that's very true, that he wanted to be like the Jedi superhero. I think that he was, like obviously Vernestra says he was shy when he was a kid, but I do see streaks of like the underlying relationship to what the Jedi represent, as the one kid from the Gathering arc in the Clone Wars, who's like, everybody's like, oh yeah, look at how ornate my lightsaber is, and then you have this kid who hasn't even successfully built a lightsaber yet, coming up with like names for moves. That strain of we are the Jedi and we are here to save the day. That it is pervasive, and I do think that he kind of worships the idea of the Jedi Guardian in that way.
In a less negative way, because I was going to say something, but now it's going to sound bad. So going back to it being a good thing, though, and he's like, yay, we're the Jedi. I like that we see that he's also passed that on to his Padawan, because Osha is very much like from the beginning. She's like, the Jedi are good. They're going to get us out of here. I'm not going to mess with them. I'm not going to try to escape the shuttle. Like, they have my back. They know I'm not guilty. So I love that, just from a story element, seeing that something that Soul really believes in passed on to his Padawan, even though they weren't together forever. He still had an impact on her and passed down, because inherently that's not a horrible way to think about it. It's in practice that it can be bad, but I just like that from a story standpoint.
100%. And it is that it is the faith in the institution that, again, I do think, and it is the beauty of how this show has framed Soul, that when we first meet him, he is the wizened Jedi master who is clearly, learned from his mistakes, that has become more cerebral, has become more, like we're talking about, like, being active and being active and reactive, who has become proactive, who is getting ahead of the situation, who does still have those blinders on because of how personal this is now, and is kind of falling back into some of those old tendencies. But when we first meet him, he is somebody that the Jedi entrust to like teach these formative lessons. That's a big deal in and of itself.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point to bring up.
You know, I do think he learns a lot from what happens here. The issue is that Soul is so wounded by what happened. And you know, there's this there is this essay I remember reading when I was in high school, and it was one of those things that like stuck with me as this like very fascinating like place of moral ambiguity rather, and it was called The Insufficiency of Honesty, basically talking about how you can be very well meaning and wanting to tell the truth, but you need to understand that sometimes like the truth isn't enough, and sometimes the truth might hurt more than the like honesty is the best policy of it all. And it is that very complicated decision Indara has to make, where it's like, yeah, like I'm going to turn myself in because you want forgiven. Because you want the council to tell you it's going to be okay and give you a punishment so you can know you did the right thing. And it comes back to that savior complex. I fucked up. I need to nail myself to a cross and be a martyr for my own fuck up.
Well, and I think because of that too, on the opposite side, he never got the closure that he wanted because he didn't get to do that. So that's why he's falling back into these old ways, because it's kind of rehashing all these emotions because it would never was ended. It was never concluded because they just swept it under the rug and kept it moving and tried to do the best they could going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, and that ties in with like who gets to make these choices, you know, like it's complicated. When should these children get to choose what their destiny? You know, like for as much as they're like, you know, they're like, oh, we're going to send them to these deranged monks. Okay. You want them to become the leader of a coven and they're like fucking 8, you know? And another thing that I think is really fascinating and a really cool element of a really cool parallel here is that while Soul very confidently thinks he gets what being a Jedi is, and that he needs somebody like Indara to be like, you need to slow your roll here. Like, I like your energy. You're on the right track. We need to bring you back on course, though.
She literally says, "This is why I have a Padawan and you don't."
Yeah. Yeah, like you're not quite there yet, bud. Like again, I appreciate the, you know, first day on the job mentality here, but like not quite here. That, you know, Soul is just so confidently kind of fucking up what it means to be a Jedi and like getting it wrong. We see that reflected in May with the what is ascension. Everybody has to walk through fear, and to fulfill our destiny, everyone must be sacrificed.
Yeah.
You're just saying words you heard other people older than you say. You know, there's a virgins in the Force. It's so beautiful. It's so sacred. And it's noble for the Jedi to understand what this means. Motherfucker, you're just repeating what Yoda told you. You don't know what any of the words you just fucking said mean.
Yeah.
On like a deep philosophical fundamental level, that you so badly want to be this version of this Pollyanna version of the Jedi that you don't realize isn't how they're supposed to operate. And we see it with May. You're just repeating these things to the point where you're actually getting this wrong. That we as individuals need to make personal sacrifices for the future, which is a very fucking Jedi thing to believe. You know, but it's these little moments where they're fundamentally misunderstanding each other. You know, that is, again, it just adds to all the tragedy. And again, like the choices made by each party lead to ruin. You know, Soul is so dead set on getting to Osha that he enables Torben to fly in half-cocked. And why is Torben willing to fly in half-cocked? Because Mother Anastasia completely threw him out of whack. You know, like I see everybody talking about, oh, he just wanted to go home. He just wanted to go home. That's part of it. But the Torben we see for the rest of the episode is not the motherfucker from the first 10 minutes.
Nah.
You know, that
Different
is
dude.
somebody who is just fundamentally, we gotta get off of this fucking planet. Like, it started as, I'm tired of camping and eating campfire food
And picking moss.
and picking moss, to get me as far away from the witches that invaded my brain as I fucking can be.
And knew everything about me. Like, she knew who his parents were, where they came from. He literally starts crying because it's affecting him so much on a level that someone is in his head. I don't even know how I would react if somebody was in my head, because it's just so crazy to think about. It's like your one private place, and she invaded that. I'd be the same way. Get me off this place, please.
Yeah.
The other thing too, like the way Mother NSA goes about it, though.
Scary, seductive,
spooky. Yeah, the seductive part. Like, is there? I haven't really noticed it. Has there been a horny section of Twitter about that?
Oh yeah.
Because I was gonna say there has to be.
Miss Taylor herself has been like, Mother Anastasia, if you want to invade my brain.
I mean, Mother Anastasia, Jodie Turner-Smith, gorgeous.
Yeah,
so gorgeous. It was kind of hot. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, just like slips into Torben's random. She's like, "Hey, what's up? You ever seen a pretty black lady before? What if I told you I could give you everything you want and I would never deny you what you need?" And he was like, "This is terrifying, but like."
I can give you everything you need.
Those
of you listening to the podcast, that was a lightsaber boner joke. This is the show you come for thoughtful analysis, but with dick jokes.
I mean,
if you wanted us to take ourselves seriously, you should have tuned into Force Center. I don't know what you're doing here. But no, absolutely. And it's that, and I think another thing that I find fascinating, and none of them say it in the episode, but it's something that I am very fascinated by, is that when you look at organizations like the Guardians of the Wills, for example, that are like you have the big dogs of the Force religions, the Jedi Order and the Dark Lords of the Sith. We have seen that, like, the smaller, more niche Force faiths on the light side are kind of diet Jedi.
Or look up or worship the Jedi as like higher than them.
They're the governments that the Jedi invaded and set up.
Good old galactic colonialism.
Maybe I'll walk out of here tomorrow and you never see me again. That's really what I want to do.
You say some shit like that again, you're fucking fired. This is not Collider, Kason. You can't get away with saying dumb shit like that. But oops.
Like on the screen. Rant engaged.
Fucking Super Saiyan. No, but I do think that, I do think that, like, again, organizations like Guardians of the Wills, like, it's just the first one that comes to mind, like, it's predominantly made up of people who are not, like, Force sensitive in the traditional sense. I think a lot of people, in my personal interpretation, and I feel validated for this interpretation through the Ahsoka show, is that everybody can touch the Force. Everybody can, like, be in tune with it. I think somebody like Chirrut Imwe is as close to, quote unquote, using the Force as somebody who does not have that potency with the midichlorians can get. That, like, the senses, this like the Force sensibilities, the that ability to kind of, like, let it guide you and be open to it. I think anybody could do that, from Chancellor Valorum to fucking Han Solo. They could do that if they wanted to.
It's all real.
And all of it. And that there is And that based on what Hugh Yang says, I think there is a thin line dividing Chirrut Imwe from a Sabine Wren.
Yes.
Somebody who can tap into the Force and use it in a real, practical, metaphysical way, who, because she's so close to the border, has to work a little bit harder than an Ahsoka Tano, than a Soul, than an Indara, and then like way ahead of Sabine are your Anakins and your Lukes and your Yodas, who are Leia, Rey, who are all like gifted with like being born at kind of like ahead of the curve. That like that's what's happening there. So I think organizations like the Guardians are like that are like we are like this close to being able to like lift shit up with our heads, or with our minds. On the flip side, a lot of the dark side faiths and religions, the Night Sisters have a really interesting relationship with like the natural order of things, where they are very much invested in we can make it whatever we want. Very Sithy, very much dominating nature to our own ends. And I think that it's interesting that this coven of witches has such a fascination with things being in twos. I think that is something that I really hope that is something that is expanded upon in the finale, in a season 2, in ancillary canon material. This idea that like, not because they are controlled by or secretly being any of that. I'm necessarily saying that I want the coven to be secretly run by the Sith.
Oh, rule of 2. This is I get
but
it
that
now.
like there's a bit of a like that idea rolling downhill a little bit, in the same way that the Sith are obsessed with the phenomena of the dyad.
Mm-hmm.
That to them, the dyad in the Force, something that is capable of incredible power within the light, kind of seems like this exaltation of their ideology of a master to embody the power and an apprentice to crave it. That like it is like the twos, the power of two. That like part of me is convinced that Kymir is equal parts maybe preying on Osha, hearing that and her ears perking up, but also that he knows like this ideology again rolled downhill, and that there is an obsession with the power of two that this coven inherited. And again, like we're 900 years out from the fall of the Sith Order. It is not impossible that the coven at some point in some way came in contact with the Bainite rule of 2 Sith, and that ideology filtered out. That it is all about these twos. Just something I think would be interesting.
I mean, it's not the first time a Sith has gone to a witch as a possible apprentice. Like we know Palpatine did that with Mother Talzin, so it's very probable.
Yeah, I just I love it. But yeah, and again, we talk about taking choices away earlier, and it's another thing that I want to touch on is that every major player kind of does it in this episode, like, or is affected by it. Anastasia takes away Torben's choices. Soul is not quite taking away, but trying to make decisions on behalf of Osha. Indara takes everybody's choice away at the very end. It is like, no, you don't get that. Like, we're gonna fuck this kid up for life again. The insufficiency of honesty. Like we gave, like all she has left is the thing that you promised her that you knew we couldn't give her. And now we're gonna rip that out of her hands? No, fuck you. Suck it up and get ready to do what you need to fucking do and do your job. And then we have Coral taking away Kelnaka's choices to like heartbreaking effect. That she made him in the same way. What Coral's all horrified of this idea that the Jedi are going to come in and just deal a death blow to their culture and to their ways and to their ideology and fundamentally fuck up everything they stand for. What does she do the moment she gets the pilot of Wookiee's body and take away Kelnaka's choices? Do something that's a offense punishable by exile.
Yeah.
Pop in your claws to
Mhm.
hurt another being. You know, all of this game you talked about, like the sanctity of your own culture. You went after somebody else's, not even on the Jedi level. Like putting the Jedi in a situation where they may have to kill one of their own, reprehensible. But like on a individual, like species, like ethnic culture level, you
Mhm.
violated Kelnaka. After all of this big talk, after, get mad, go fuck up your sister. Like that's how high the stakes are, that we get to this like fucking Waco Jonestowny fucking place, where the witches like put their full, no pun intended, force behind dominating Kelnaka's mind, knowing it could kill them if they get forcibly unplugged, to go and do that to Kelnaka. Come on. You got to pick a fucking team. You got to pick a fucking team, Coral. Either the cultures here are sanctified and can't be fucked with, or you can make a Wookiee pop his claws at a moment's notice, at which point you kind of lost all the legs your argument stood on, didn't you? It's really complicated and it's really uncomfortable. The Jedi went into this situation wanting to help, being kind of curious as to what the hell is going on here, found out that these children are a force phenomena that does not make any fucking sense, had understandable questions, and these witches wanted to preserve their culture, preserve their ways as a very, group on the margins operating in the outer rim, independent of the Republic. There is no hero, there is no villain. Everybody fucked up, everybody wanted the best thing. And a failure to listen and a failure to communicate and see past the tribalist identities here led to the deaths of dozens of people. Fuck.
I think about that scene, and I saw it while I was editing for my review. I just love that shot after the Jedi like first enter into the witches, I guess, domain, whatever, while they're doing this ceremony. And the camera turns to the group of witches as they're all just kind of standing there staring at the Jedi in this. And it's like a weird sense of, you're trespassing and we're scared, but we're also angry. And it's like, it's just such a really powerful image that I really enjoyed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really powerful. I've been ranting and haven't shut the fuck up here in a few minutes. Anybody else who has thoughts, please say something, because I've conquered the microphone here tonight.
I have a question.
Hopefully, I have an answer.
What do y'all think happened with Coral? Because she goes
I
into
don't
smoke.
know. I also wanted to talk about that.
Perfect.
Yeah, because like she goes into smoke. She says, "You should not have brought him here," in her like Russian-esque accent.
Who knew Zabrax had Russian
and-
accents?
Yeah, like she says, "You should not have brought him here." But then, like, whenever it cuts to all the witches sitting there swaying, controlling Kalnaka, like she's not there. So like we still don't know where exactly she was. We still don't have a body. Like, did she have to? Like, was she in Kalnaka? Like, is that how? I guess that's not how it works. Because Mother Anasea was still standing there when she was in Torben's brain.
Well, I feel like had she have turned into black mist smoke and she had to be like the connector inside of Kanaka's body, similar to like with Savage or that we saw with Marok and Ahsoka, when they were kicked out, I would assume that her smoke would have come out of Kelnaka.
Right, and she would like physically reappear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Scotty, I think you're on the right track. Because I'm not sure. I interpreted it as in the same way that, like, in The Last Jedi, Rey and Kylo are naturally, like, bonded through the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And Snoke kind of just, like, helped nudge it a little bit, and kind of opened the door. I think Coral was kind of like the conduit that she kind of gave them like a focal point to channel their psychic energy to hijack Kilnaka.
Because they already had that connection. They didn't
they
have
are
with Kanaka.
Yeah, and I think in turn they were boosting Coral's ability to kind of like, direct Kelnaka. So I think it was like everybody was kind of amping everybody else in kind of a superconducting loop. The fact that we don't have a body is something that is really fascinating. I don't know what to make of that. And just based on how ambiguous it is and based on the old Star Wars rule of if you don't have a body, they're probably not dead. And even then it's kind of choppy.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to say she's probably alive.
Now this makes me think too, because I keep wanting to compare it to witches we have seen. Mother Talzin just kind of disappears into green smoke when she is killed. So I guess it's because we don't know what Coral did. She just goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of think she's alive too.
I'm inclined to think it is. I feel like it would have been a bigger moment if she was dead.
She is
Yeah.
gonna pull. She pulled a Darth Maul. She's very angry, and that's what kept her alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because like that leads me to believe that she saved May from the fall.
Yeah,
like-
I could see that.
But like, what was she doing in the meantime?
I mean, maybe she goes to get May out and it's kind of like her last act.
Mhm.
I mean, especially like if you think like, the last things you see on your childhood home are the Jedi brainwashing and abducting your sister, that same Jedi murdering your mother more moments before that. And then the last experience you have with your other mother is the Jedi did this, avenge us, and with her dying moments saving you.
Yeah.
Yeah, checks out.
Yeah.
I would kind of like that. That would make me think more better of Coral, to be honest.
Yeah. But then we need to figure out what happened in the meantime, unless that is like her dying act.
Yeah, I do. I truly think it is. I think Coral's dying act is, rescuing May, and then, if it's not her dying in the process of saving her, or the physical exertion kills her, a la Luke in The Last Jedi,
Oh, I like that.
any number of things. Any number of things could have been what did her in. And again, it's one of those. And another really fascinating moral quandary about this episode, and I talked about this on Bombadcast last night. So Leslie Headland said that Indara did not know that purging the witches from Kelnaka's mind would kill them. I don't think if she did know, she'd have tried to save Kelnaka.
She would have just killed him.
You don't know I mean, at that point, like, if you kill them, do you also kill them? Or was it like, is it the difference between, pushing the off button and unplugging something?
Right.
Like if Indara, let's say for the sake of argument, you kill Kelnaka. In his dying moments, the witches have enough time to kind of like leave.
Like, yeah, sever their bond, and yeah.
And not like, not get unplugged, right?
Yeah.
If Indara goes in knowing that, I think you're right. I think she kills Kalnaka. Because I don't see Indara, who has been the only real advocate these witches have had up to this point, go, in the name of saving one Jedi Master, I'm going to kill 50 people.
She might, if they're like, because like they're under attack at that point.
Yeah.
And like when she sees Torben's face, she's like, oh, they did bad. So like, bye.
I mean,
also, okay, I need help.
But
because
one
I know
life for that many? I don't know. I do not know if, like, again, if we can say that killing Kelnaka would have saved those witches,
But how many people could Kilnaka go on to help as a Jedi?
Isn't that the
Oh,
As a
he
point?
Wookiee
does-
who lives for and has an extended life cycle.
He also popped his claws, so maybe she knows like he's gonna
He's gonna
fuck
go
off
into-
here any minute.
Yeah.
You know, so like,
Mm.
how much of a life does Kelnaka still have as a Jedi? When we meet him on Kofar, he's not wearing his robes. He's like
He's naked.
he's fucking
yeah, he's-
Shrekking it. He's fucking
Yeah.
Shrekking it naked in the woods. Like,
Oh yeah, no. So I know I've seen it somewhere in something else. I don't remember what it was though. At least I'm fairly certain that I have. Where like somebody is being possessed and like some like a psychic or whoever, I don't know, somebody who has those abilities enters their mind and then like physically like snapped the neck of the other person that was like controlling them.
mhm.
I don't remember what I saw it in, but I feel like it was like it might have been Supernatural or it might have been some other kind of like show like that. But I was wondering if that's what Indara did. Like I don't know if it's like that would just be a force ability or if whoever she is, wherever she's from, maybe she has like elevated psychic abilities like that.
Maybe it wouldn't be
Something
unheard of.
something I did notice, well, once again I was editing the footage. She does, when the connection is severed, she does a weird like quick jolt of her head to the side. So there's definitely some kind of what was the phrasing you used, Jared? Metaphysicalness
Yeah.
to it. Where
Yeah.
there's something that happens where she feels the snap. Now, whether that was like a snap or like a force type thing, we don't know.
I think
Right.
it's a force thing. I believe how Leslie Headland explained it was that like it was that kind of like hard reset. Like
Mhm.
they were so psychically in there that she like basically rendered all of those witches brain dead in that moment. And again, like I don't think I truly think Endara would have killed him. I do. I
Yeah.
really fucking do. Like it's one life against 50. Even if they're like with everything that's happening, with how much Endara wanted cooler heads to prevail,
Mhm.
like the showing of good faith of I'm going to put my friend out of his misery to spare all of you. Okay, we took one of yours, we let you have one of ours.
Right.
Let's bring it the fuck down now. You know, it's
What if it
heavy.
doesn't really kill them? What if it just leaves them in Kanaka's head? And that's why he's drawing all their symbols all over the cabin.
Again,
Oh my gosh.
you took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah. I
Like they're
think
all
they
just
left
stuck in there. Like Indara closed the door on them, but they're like banging on the door, like, let us out. Let
That
us
is
out.
a miserable existence. And I
Yeah,
hope that's
Kanaka's
not the
just
case
going
for him.
fucking nuts.
I don't think it went that far. But I do think that like so in the same way. So okay, now I'm gonna end up talking about the thing I talked about on Bombadcast last night. I said I wasn't going to. So when we were talking about because and it was very sweet. Darkside May, go follow her on all the things. She's a sweetheart.
She's great.
She loved my thread about Kymir's fighting style, and she was like, "I need you to do this for Kelnaka." And Eli from Star Wars in a Galaxy, who loves to do versus shit like I do, was talking about how, well, can we know that's how Kelnaka fights because Mother Coral was controlling him?
Mm.
The argument I'm willing to make that this is a facsimile of how Kelnaka would fight is the same way that Rey was able to present a kind of rudimentary facsimile of Kylo Ren's fighting style because of their force bond. And that it was kind of and we talked about this on the Versus. It's $5 tier on the Versus on the Patreon for the Versus series. That because we did Last Jedi Rey versus Empire Strikes Back Luke, and we were talking about how Rey kind of gets this really cool inherited muscle memory that she doesn't quite understand the nuances of the martial art, the martial art she's kind of inherited from Kylo Ren's mind, but she is doing it, but in a very like I'm learning the choreography to a dance I've not yet mastered kind of way.
That would explain why I didn't love the choreography of the duel. It was like the sequels.
Dookie take. I'm being trolled on my own show.
Don't make me start with Disney hates green lightsabers.
Still, the existence of that video, I like it. It is such a specific fucking take. That is somebody who has so many specific opinions about lightsaber shit. I can't talk shit about, even though I don't agree with you. Like, it's just like, I can't talk shit about this. I can't say a word about this. But and it was a fun video nonetheless. But yeah, don't agree with it, but I get it. Like Lando and Solo. But um but no, so like it is that kind of like inherited muscle memory thing. So I do think Coral is again kind of like doing what Kelnaka would do from somebody imitating it, because it is that inherited muscle memory.
Mm.
And I think that door opening both ways is how we arrive at Kelnaka obsessively drawing the coven symbols.
I mean,
Mm.
imagine if he's just getting weird like flashes of
Yeah.
kind of like Torben stuff with Anisea and
Yeah.
that kind of dark, misty gray haze. He just gets flashes of that of like the group of witches. I'd be drawing
Yeah.
circles and shit too, going crazy.
Yeah, like I do think that there's like a psychic residue left in his mind from that encounter. And and another like Legends pool, Star Wars Death Troopers.
Mm-hmm.
The Star Wars zombie book from Legends. There's a moment, and it doesn't take hold, and he's cured and is able to fight it off. Briefly, Chewbacca is infected with the Darkwing virus.
Mm.
Fun fact most people don't know about that book: Han Solo and Chewbacca show up halfway through and they become the main characters. And it's one of the few things I vehemently hate about that fucking book. I love Dark Troopers. It is so eerie and terrifying.
I
And it
should
is
read
like,
it then.
oh, it's so good. And it's like, it's a very specific flavor of horror that I can't quite quantify. It's like, there's just a vibe it shares almost with like the Fear Street trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
That is that very like you you get to understand all of the supernatural bullshit going on at the very end, and it's very satisfying in that way. But in the brief moment where Chewie is being infected by the Darkwing virus, he is we see how it's fucking with his mind and how it's very personal. That it's like it's very eat, kill, eat, kill, but it's framing it like it's a life day feast in his mind. And that it's like hearkening back to like ancient Wookiee tradition in his mind personally. And that madness that comes with that like perversion of everything culturally the Wookiees hold dear. And I think there's part of that here too. That
Leslie Headland would be the one to pull from it.
exactly. With with the game she's talked about Legends and how she's lived up to it.
Mhm.
Oh, I am not surprised at all if that was even if it was a subconscious parallel.
Mhm.
That idea of like the Wookiee tradition and culture being perverted by a malignant force hijacking the mind of a mighty Wookiee. Like that is fully checks out. But yeah, this show fucking rules.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I feel bad because I feel like I phrased it really horribly at the beginning by starting with my negative, but I really do love this show. Like I said, it's like my number 2. And it's only probably because we don't get as much with these people as I would like. If we got a little bit more with them, it probably would be my number 1.
Yeah. I mean, I very controversially I very controversially have Andor at the bottom of my list. I think it's a great show. I think it's phenomenal. It's just it's not as mythic as I like my Star
For
Wars to be.
sure.
It
Yeah.
doesn't,
Not enough
you know,
lightsaber for Jared.
it's like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
But there's so much nuance.
Do you
to it,
see
and
me?
we
Do you
love
see me?
that.
Do you see me complaining about bricks and screws, motherfucker? Come on.
Come
But
on.
but no, and again, it is very nuanced, and it is very morally complex, and those are the things I love about it. I love the themes of, like, what do we fight for and how do we fight for it. Like, there's again, Andor is a show rooted in a lot of the fundamental questions that Star Wars asks of its audience.
It's just not in the Star Wars package that you'd prefer it to be in.
Kind of, yeah. Like I said, again, there is a, like, Andor is the most science fiction Star Wars has probably ever been.
That's a good way to put it. Where the rest is way more fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's a conversation I have with people, because people be like, oh, like, I want to get into Star Wars, or like, I've heard good and cool things about this, like, but I'm not super into sci-fi. And that's normally the part where I, like, okay, like, let me just put something in your brain that will affect how you watch this. Star Wars has, for the most part, more in common with Lord of the Rings than it does with Star Trek.
Yep, and that's why I like Lord of the Rings and I don't watch Star Trek.
Like,
Yep.
and again, and I think that framing is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, you're going in and you see spaceships and you see lasers and you see robots, and it's like all of these things feel like traditional sci-fi. For the most part, that is set dressing. This is a fucking fairy tale. This is a fairy tale that happens to take place in outer space.
Yep.
And we're going from planet to planet instead of kingdom to kingdom and realm to realm. This is more Lord of the Rings. This is more fairy tale than it is speculative sci-fi. And Andor is very much speculative sci-fi. That's not to say I don't like that genre.
Mm-hmm.
It is to say that when I think of Star Wars, I go to the pulp, I go to the mythicism, I go to the fairy tale fantasy elements. And that's not quite what Andor is interested in. And it's not to its detriment. It is just a matter of personal taste and preference. And that is why, like, I get less out of the what I come to Star Wars for out of Andor, despite the fact that I get a fucking lot out of Andor. And I'm gonna be rewatching it soon. I will show it to my girlfriend because she didn't get a chance to watch it, and I'm excited to go through it, like, without the discourse making me want to fucking hate it either.
Oh my god, I know. Can't wait to do that with this show, with the Acolyte.
Yeah.
Not that I hate it or ever had, like, oh, I hate this, but, like, just enjoying it without having to block that out.
Yeah.
Some stupid bitch in your ear being like, this sucks.
Yeah. I mean, the stupid bitch in your ear, this sucks. Like with Andor, again, it was like watching
Woke.
it.
They both were woke, but somehow the Acolyte's more woke than Andor.
Again, there's never been a bigger self-report for what woke means than the show that is insanely diverse being woker than the fucking rebellion communist manifesto.
I was just DMing with Sean Room, and he mentioned something about people calling the show woke, and I was like, you know what? When I see people calling the show woke, I'm like, oh, do not engage, because if that's their only, like, if that's the reason they don't like it, they say that one buzzword, I'm like, oh, so you haven't watched it, or oh, so you just repeat the things that you hear. You're not actually taking in the media and formulating your own opinion about it.
Right.
Let me not get on that rant.
Yeah, no, but like, and again, with Andor, the thing that drove me crazy was the amount of people who I thought were smarter than this, who did the whole, like, the Baby Yoda show can't fucking touch this shit. Like, this is real fucking Star Wars. And this, like, all we have is these fucking idiots smashing their action figures together, and this is real shit. And I'm like, man, if you need the show to like, if you need Star Wars to, like, literally have somebody, like, go full Antifa for it to be intelligent and political, but you can't appreciate the Baby Yoda show for the fact that it's about like a diaspora, like a diaspora of a culture that's been shattered by institution after institution, trying to find its way back to some type of like not even cultural homogeny, but cultural harmony, and the ways that like being affected by a fundamentalist group has like affected this survivor and the way he walks through the world. Maybe this shit just isn't for you. Maybe talking about media professionally isn't fucking for you. Because just because one is objectively more silly and pulpy and goes to like a more whimsical place does not mean that the Mandalorian and Andor are like these like opposing fucking forces of like mindless pop culture dribble and real art. Like it fucking infuriates me. And that's why I want to rewatch Andor. But all of that to say, sorry. I do think the Acolyte is coming for that number one spot. I really fucking do.
For
Like
me
I'm not for
or in
me.
general?
For
Oh,
me,
okay.
like I like again because it is all of those themes about about critiquing the Jedi. Understanding that the Jedi are a flawed institution worth fighting for, worth growing with, but also recognizing their failings and that exploration of what is the dark side, what does that darkness represent, understanding that you cannot eradicate the dark side. What you can do is to not choose it in your day to day, in your everyday,
and choose to be better.
to choose to be better, that there's always time to be better. And then you slap a conspiracy thriller on top of that. Come on, man. Like you're fighting against a show that explores a lot of similar themes, but on a very like, what do we do after, what do we do after like the bottom is kind of fallen out and we've mostly put things back together, but still, what the fuck am I doing with myself? Of Ahsoka and the beautiful tragedy of Obi-Wan Kenobi and learning to accept what is and what can't be and what can't be undone, and like finding yourself on the other end of like profound trauma. And it also happens to be a show where Darth Vader is the other star of it. Like those two shows are like doing a lot of heavy lifting for like my personal like flavor for Star Wars. And Acolyte's coming for its fucking throat. And I cannot wait to see how this show ends.
Same
here.
Oh, so good. So fucking good. Do we have any final thoughts before we bring this puppy home?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. Not that I haven't already talked about.
Excellent. Well, Scotty, please tell the lovely people where they can find you and what you do, my friend.
Well, you can find the majority of my content on YouTube. I try to post on TikTok, but you can find like a few videos there. But on all social media, I am at Scotty Holiday SW. Follow me if you want to hear more of my takes about Star Wars or just to nerd out from a queer perspective.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Scotty is one of my favorite people. You're just so much fun to fucking talk to.
I
And
appreciate that.
I listen. Scotty Holiday is one of the few people who has done a back-to-back guest spot on Knights of the Nerd Republic.
That's true.
And I try so hard to space out like when people come on the show so that like every time it feels fun and special, that every time like this is an episode I can only do with them. This is an episode that is particularly geared towards Alden or the Bombad Boys or whatever. And Scotty, you're one of the few people who I was like, oh, I gotta talk to them about Rise of the Red Blade. And then I immediately was like, I really want to fucking talk to them about Ahsoka. Like boom, boom, back to back.
No, I love that. I love every time you DM me and you act like I already know that I'm invited to come do an episode, and I just play along because I'm like, pretty sure Jared's asking me to come on to record this week. It's just, you always present it like I know what you're talking about already, and I think that's so funny. But I appreciate it every time.
Oh, we are always appreciative to have you on every time. Kason, where can the lovely people find you, brother?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Crave Breezy. I'm usually here. Haven't been a lot lately. But we'll try to be better about that in the future. I manage a band. Their links are in my stuff. The band's called Belvibeth. Actually, they're a part of a contest right now to be like America's Next Top Hit Maker, which it's metal, so it's extremely hard to win these things. But they have it categorized by genre. Links to vote for that are on their pages and stuff too. So if anybody wants to help the boys out, that would be very cool.
Yeah, I
Send me
crept on
that
their
link and I'll put it in
Instagram.
the description.
I crept on
Solid.
their Instagram. They're hot, so go vote for them.
Hell yeah. Jarod,
Yes.
where?
You guys can find me personally on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at DarkJedi2552. You can also find me over at All Remaining Systems for Ionized Bastards. We are in the season 2 finale, baby. The episode was supposed to come out this week. Dan, okay, so here's what happened. And it's so unfair. It is so unfair, and Dan felt so bad, and it was so not his fault. Dan was on a work trip and brought his entire setup with him.
Oh,
He went to Dallas for a work thing. Brought his computer, brought his microphone, brought his dice, brought everything. And then while he was in Dallas, I believe he said it was Dallas, they were like, "Hey, we're actually sending you to Atlanta." Lol. And ended up like on a flight that would have taken off like basically as we would have started recording.
Damn.
And it wasn't exactly one of those episodes where somebody could be like, Michael can play for me. Like we did that for the season premiere. Because like Dan was like, I don't want to keep slowing us down. I will punt and go with whatever Michael sets up for me. And that worked, but it's the fucking season finale, and everything's riding on this episode. So I gotta wait for Dan, and then so this week's probably not going to be any good. So next week, season 2 of Ionized Bastards should be wrapping up, which gives everybody watching ample time to get caught up. And it's linked down below. So go watch Ionized Bastards. I play Fabian Martell, a Dark Jedi ex-Inquisitor with a very complicated relationship with the Force. Alden Diaz plays Thabor Sheems, the character who answers the question, what if Saul Goodman was an Ithorian? Dan, aforementioned, plays Zuzo Yort, a kleptomaniac, vagrant cyborg Gungan. And Jerry, the Cannon Junkie from the Bombad cast, plays 4044, a cuddly assassin droid. So if you want to watch this band of fucking idiots save the galaxy yet again, hopefully, again, we haven't recorded the episode. We could all fucking die. I tweeted that the other day when we were supposed to record, where it was like a picture of like all the Jedi in night, like taking like a group selfie on set. And I tweeted that picture and I said, if I tweet this, it was like, if I tweet this while we're recording the Ionized Bastard season finale, just know this means there was a TPK. Which for those of you who means total party kill, like everybody's wiped the fuck out.
I laughed like I knew.
Huh?
I laughed like I knew what it meant.
It's okay. Contact. You got the vibe of like it probably means everyone's dead.
TPK.
But yeah, so tune in for Ionized Bastards. Hopefully we all survive. All I know is that I'm going to have a proper lightsaber duel. So that in and of itself is enough. Everybody's been loving me talking about versus stuff. Now me and my dice get to put my money where my mouth is as to how good I'd be with swinging a lightsaber around. I rolled a 7. That's not a great start. You can also watch Pro and Noob, the show over at the Mitch692 YouTube channel, where Mitch from Comic Book Cast is taking me one episode at a time through Neon Genesis Evangelion. We were about halfway through, I believe Mitch said. So yeah, go check that out. I'm slowly losing my mind trying to figure out what is going on in Evangelion and having a wonderful time doing it. And then obviously Epic Confrontations, the Star Wars trivia show we're all a part of. Scotty, you have a match coming up.
I do, and I need to start studying. But I'm really excited for it.
Yeah.
Buck is a heavy hitter. And
I know.
not to, you know what? I'm going to pause the recording real quick. We had a brief sidebar there because I didn't want to spoil the most recent epic confrontation, assuming this comes out before you guys see the episode, before you guys see the match. But yeah, you can check out all of that, and you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Threads, TikTok, and wherever you get podcasts, and on our website, thenerdacademypodcast.com, where you can get your hands on some TNAP merch.
T-shirt, tpublic.com.
Buy the Cookie Cop shirt. Buy the Cookie Cop shirt. I'm gonna get
With a pillow.
Or the
I just
pillow.
love that you can get a pillow. It's my favorite. I
Right?
think it's so funny.
Right. And if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Give me $1.
Oh,
Speaking of our patron, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Ray Clausen and Paco. And again, another thank you just because I missed him when he donated. Brendan Mystical Mar of Patroners, they were not. I just didn't see that we got a new patron, and I had just not shouted him out for joining for several weeks. So I just want to make up for that for doing it a couple extra times. So yeah, check all of that. Huh?
Did he submit a clip?
He did not. He donated to the $5 tier.
Okay.
And right now we only have two $10 patrons. So I'm waiting till it builds up a little because I like the sweet spot of like 3 or 4 to do the clips. Any more, I feel like it's too many to do the clips, and any less, it's not enough clips. But Versus Series, we're going to be finishing that up, or getting caught up once Acolyte is over. So we have Asajj Ventress circa the Bad Batch versus Galen Merrick circa the end of the Force Unleashed.
ooh.
Right.
that.
The wayward bastard apprentices, right? Duking it out. And we also have a special one featuring Eli from In a Galaxy. Keller and Beck versus the Grand Inquisitor.
Ooh.
As another fun matchup we have coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
And again, I am not going to say anything too spoilery, but we have decided we are going to be using Chimere this season. He is going to be our August matchup, and he is going head-to-head with a Legends character a lot of people have been talking about during Acolyte season, and I'll leave it at that. I have not left much to the imagination, but if you use your noggin, I think you'll figure it out. So subscribe to the $5 tier for the all new episodes of the KNR Versus series, as well as our tremendous back catalog of like 40 fucking episodes. We're on season 5 of the Versus series. Spencer and I are going strong. We have a 2-part. We're doing something exciting just because we're kind of getting close to this time of the year. Normally, all the matches kind of stand alone on their own 2 feet and are kind of doing their own thing. We're actually for November and December doing a kind of 2-parter. Which again, a little sizzle here. They're kind of like sister matchups. So in November, we are doing Shin Hati versus Ahsoka Tano circa the Clone Wars. Followed up by our season finale being Anakin Skywalker circa the Clone Wars versus Baylan Skoll. So a matchup that I wanted to do from the moment I watched Ahsoka. So that's going to be a fun little 2-parter at the end of the season with some more matches sprinkled in before that. So far this season, we've done we did a highly requested, very controversial one. We did Darth Vader versus Yoda, one that I have had many arguments with people about and got to lay down on wax my hard opinions on how I think that fight would shake out. We did Mace Windu versus Darth Malgus. We did Ezra Bridger circa Ahsoka versus Obi-Wan circa the Phantom Menace. We've done Shakti versus Darth Maul. And like I said earlier, we did Luke versus Rey circa both of their middle chapters. We got a few more coming your way. So $5 tier, like I said, like 40 episode backlog on top of everything we're doing right now. So go check that out. Subscribe to Scotty's channel. Subscribe to All Remaining Systems for Ionized Bastards. Subscribe to Mitch692 for Pro and Noob. We will see you guys next week for the finale of The Acolyte, as well as some The Boys talk as well down the road on the main show. So without further ado, thank you all so very much for tuning in. We are honored that you have joined us. May the force be with you, and for light and life.
Bye.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar!